Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. We've had a couple weeks off, and I hope everybody had a great holiday season. And if I'm correct, well, let me tell you, I'm Nanette Kennedy, and this is the CwG Book Group for Book 4, Awaken the Species by Neil Donald Walsh. And I believe I've got my bookmark at chapter 30. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, let's everybody go on mute and let's get going. Sorry we're a little bit late, but I dropped my internet dropped. Okay. Go ahead, Linda.
Okay. This is chapter 30 of Conversations with God, Book 4, Awaken the Species. Neil is speaking. How do they integrate all of this? We've been given some great insights here about how humans could live if we were an awakened species. But the question now is, how do we make this work in everyday life? If I'm in the fire department, I need to change my own behaviors before I can begin to think of producing some kind of change on the planet. Gandhi had it right. I need to be the change I wish to see. But I've not been able to do that to my satisfaction. I'm finding that information is one thing, integration is another. The great sadness of my life is that I haven't been able to fully integrate all that I have come to know and understand as a result of our conversations. I haven't been able to make it a consistent part of my life. I mean, my daily interactions, not just my daily thoughts. And here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to share with others messages that cannot be actually lived and demonstrated. I'm not interested in pie in the sky, impractical, unworkable, or unachievable evolutionary goals. These goals are achievable, I promise you. Regular, normal human beings have lived their lives in the ways that have been described here. Well, that may be so, and I'm so very glad to know that, but I can tell you that in my experience, this has been a huge challenge. I hear you say that I am love, for example, and that we are all love, that love is what we're made of, that it's who we are. Well, I think I'm a loving person. I want to be a loving person. I try to be a loving person. But far too often I say something or do something or am something that is just plain and simply not very loving. Either I'm not loving the earth, or I'm not loving myself, or saddest of all for me, I'm acting in a way that is not very loving toward another. I want to get above that. I want to move past it. I want to go beyond it. I'm entering the first third of my 7th decade on this earth, and I'm really wanting to see more progress. How long? Oh God, how long will this take? You're being very hard on yourself. Many who know you would say you're a very loving person. And so is everyone who has been drawn to this conversation or has found themselves following this dialogue by chance. It is true, indeed, of everyone on earth. You are, all of you, my wonderful children, growing and becoming more and more of your true divine self every day. It is, as I told you in our very first conversation, you are goodness and mercy and compassion and understanding. You are peace and joy and light. You are forgiveness and patience, strength and courage, a helper in time of need, a comforter in time of sorrow, a healer in time of injury, a teacher in time of confusion. You are the deepest wisdom and the highest truth, the greatest peace and the grandest love. You are these things. And in moments of your life, you have known yourself as these things. Choose now to know yourself as these things always. I'm trying. I'm really trying. We all are. But I don't seem to have found the formula. I don't seem to have found a way to consistently be who I want to be, who I know I am, when daily life presents itself. Can you help me? I feel like I'm floundering here. You might begin by letting this very conversation be of lasting benefit. Read the transcript that you have made of it often. Pay attention to the list of 16 ways in which an awakened species behaves. Place particular order and focus in your personal life on items 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 12, 14, 15, and 16. Thank you. I will do that. I will do exactly that. But is there anything else you can tell me? Any other ideas you might offer? Yes. Number 1, see your whole life as the process, not just a small period within that whole. So do not seek to complete the integration of all that you have come to understand within your next year or month or week or day. Let your process take the time it will take. Well, that's not what I would call excitedly motivating to a person who is impatient. Impatience can be not so beneficial if you let it stop you from acknowledging how far you have come and how fast you have done so, and letting that inspire you about your tomorrows. In other words, be kind to myself. In other words, be kind to yourself. Notice where you've been earlier in your life, where you were just a few years ago, and where you are now. Your progress has been exponential. You've not been moving forward at a 1, 2, 3 rate. You've been moving forward at a 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 rate. This is true of all of those who are following the conversation here. It is, in fact, why and how they have come to do so. They are not following this exchange by chance. They have brought themselves to this experience. All of you are now stepping into the perfect time for advancement. It's going to be easier as you move forward. The biggest part of the mountain, the toughest climb, is behind you. Thank you. Thank you for telling us that. But could you give me any practical tools, any methods or approaches I could use to more fully integrate all that I know to be true? I'm searching for congruence here. I don't want to just talk a good game. I want to walk the talk. And you don't think you do? Every so often, maybe. Every once in a while, when I'm in a really good space. But I want to do it every day. I yearn to do it all the time. You are doing it all the time, don't you see? Your struggle is a part of the process. It's part of doing it all the time. If you weren't walking the talk all the time, you wouldn't pay 10 seconds worth of attention to any of this. The whole world is going through an evolutionary shift right now, and you're not immune to that. You're part of it. You're actually part of that which is creating it. All of you who are engaged right here now have self-selected to be a part of that. So have patience with yourself and have patience with the process. You're all going exactly where you all seek to go, and you're all getting there. And you are, each of you, sweetly and gently taking others there with you as they see the changes in you and feel inspired to create changes in themselves. If you saw you showing up all at once as the perfect example of an awakened one, they might admire you, but they would never see themselves there. Don't you see then that you're going through your struggles on their behalf? Do you see that it serves them for you to be doing so? Do not ask them for your struggles to end. Ask them to be even more evidenced and then more visibly and successfully overcome. And in this way, all of you will awaken a species that is wondering if such a process is possible and see in you that it is. You have a way of making everyone feel better. Well, if I can't, who can? Cute. You really can be cute, you know that. So I've been told. But really, couldn't you give us some tools here? Some methods we could use to at least keep this process of our personal evolution moving forward? You do know that there is no right way to the mountaintop. Yes, I know that. You've made that clear many times, but surely you can offer some options, some things we might consider. With that caveat, here are 5 then. Share your process. As spoken of in an earlier part of our exchange here and referred to again just a moment ago, share openly and authentically with those whose lives you touch both your struggles and your progress on the path to full awakening. The choice to do so is both empowering and emancipating, unshackling in ways that the will within to express the divinity that is yours, and liberating in other ways, in others, their own desire and ability to do so. Create a reason. The challenges on the path you have chosen may, on more than one day, hardly seem worth confronting unless you accord them greater meaning than the simple triumph over them. The question must be asked, why? Then your answer must be given. I tell you this, your path is not without purpose in the heavens. For every soul which would grow to know in its experience what it has always understood in its awareness serves not only its own agenda, but the superconscious will of the collective, advancing the evolution of a species even as its individual progress is attained. For it shall leave in the wake of its advancement the ladders and stepping stones by which those who follow may do so ever more rapidly. Express gratitude. This is the most powerful tool you could be given. Gratitude can be a selected energy and not merely an autonomic response. When one actively chooses to be grateful for everything presenting itself in one's life, and I do mean everything, it sets up an energetic signature that washes over and impacts the energy of whatever is now arising. This can transmorgify, defined as to transform, especially in a surprising or magical manner. Transmorgify the presentation itself, to say nothing of one's entire life. Choose a state of being. Do this in advance of anything you know you are going to think, do, or say. Life has very little to do with what you are doing, and very much to do with what you are being while you are doing it. The surprising thing about this is that through pure intention, beingness is transformed from a reaction to a creation. It is no longer something that arises out of an experience, but something that you put into an experience. And one final tool for integration: go with the soul. Most often, you respond to whatever is happening in your life, whether it is an illness, a disappointment, a happy surprise, whatever it might be, from the logic center of your mind. You analyze the data that your mind holds regarding the experience at hand, and that is the place from which your reaction emerges. It is possible for you to cultivate the ability to respond from the wisdom center in your soul. Here, the data regarding the experience at hand is unlimited and expansive and includes considerations and understandings that may not have been conceived of in the mind. The soul is the place within which everything you know is already integrated and simply awaits the outward expression of that. So take a moment whenever anything is confronting you, something that you call good news or something that you call bad news, and instruct your mind to let you act as if you are out of your mind. And then notice your response emerge without thinking, producing a spontaneous demonstration of your soul's wisdom and awareness.
Thank you, Linda. And where shall we start the discussion?
Thanks, Linda.
Oh, I would say
You're welcome.
what's an inspiring chapter. Wonderful chapter, I think.
Yes, I agree.
And we all should give ourselves a pat on the back because it's not easy, really, the path that we choose. And it's great that we can share with each other here and be together. And I find that chapter very, very inspiring. Over.
Oh, I found it inspiring as well. And, you know, like we tend to be conditioned to be really hard on ourselves. And this chapter is a powerful reminder to go gentle on your soul, your sweet, innocent soul.
Yeah, and with the new year, I've been experiencing I don't know, resistance, something about this path that I'm on, and everything that he talks about in this paragraph or in this chapter of being the model for others, allowing others to see the difficulty. It's the right place where I'm, doing this whole new website, and I have a logo now, and I have a tagline, and I'm being marketed, and I don't want it to be about me. And so all of that is just right there. And I feel like this whole chapter speaks to that. And the one piece that really struck me is the idea of time. He doesn't really talk about it in terms of time, but that's what I got the point of, is that just do what you're doing and be in the moment and be your best, highest self. And it all will work out. We're all doing this. I had a conversation with my granddaughter yesterday that she's 19. And when I ended that conversation, I just thought, the whole world, everything is going to be okay. And those of us that are here, we're creating the space that will give these young people the ability to create this world that we're all looking for, wanting. It's coming. It is coming. And these kids have it. They're so far advanced spiritually, without any teaching, without anything. They just have it. It's in them. And that's what Neil's work has all been about. That's what our work is all about. Creating that environment for this new movement to gain foothold and to take over. Powerful chapter. I'm done.
Yeah, hi everyone, Happy New Year. I just wanted to share that I've had a really challenging Christmas, and this Linda talking about the young people, I had an amazing experience of having all my brother's family for Christmas, and my 22-year-old nephew, who's a medical student, had throat cancer diagnosed, and he was being operated on over Christmas. And I was walking on the beach with him, and he was saying, I was telling him about conversations with God and about the group, and even things that were in this chapter. And he said, I'm going to learn to meditate because I know it's going to help me to get through what I've got to go through. And it was just amazing to be able to share some of it actually when he was going through it. So that's me, over.
Well, love to you and healing to your nephew.
Yes, Sarah.
I saw a quote this past week, and it's not in front of me, so I'm not going to say it verbatim, but in essence, it says, talk to yourself as the way that you would talk to someone you really love. And kind of it is implying, get out of this, oh, I'm not doing this well enough. I'm not, because we're not nearly as critical with others as we are with ourselves. And not to mention the stress that causes upon ourselves is, I'm not doing this right, and I'm not doing that right. And one of the things that struck me when Linda was reading was the expressed gratitude, that this is the most powerful tool you can be given. And I'm not perfect with this, but I tell you what, this is one that I really, really believe in, is just be grateful. I even say things like, remind me, dear God, how grateful I am to be in a bad mood over this problem I'm having with my computer. It just kind of brings everything down a notch. And we need to remember.
Sorry, I didn't hear that, Nanette. I'd like to hear it. It's very important. Please forgive me for asking you to repeat it.
I'm not sure where I was at the moment. The importance of gratitude, and even thanking the universe for things that are not so happy and thrilling, is that it can make that situation, like if I'm having a really frustrating time with my computer or something, and I can just sit back and say, I am so grateful to be alive. And really, in the big scheme of things, this computer issue is not an issue. I can remember, Siobhan, this was, oh my gosh, probably 40 years ago. A friend of mine's sister was murdered. And I remember that when I would do the dishes, I would find myself prior to that event going, God, I hate doing the dishes. God, can't anybody else help do the dishes? And from that day that I found out about my friend's sister, I would be thankful that I was standing on 2 feet, that I was looking out a kitchen window at a beautiful scene. I had water to wash dishes. I had a life. And it was not the beginning point, but it was one of those points in my life where I felt like I just need to be grateful, and grateful for everything that comes into it. And I don't know if, when you listen to the recording, Shabana, maybe you can dig up what I lost. But I do think being grateful is a very important part of this. Over.
I agree, Nanette. Being grateful is a game changer. And I have seen how gratitude and appreciation have delivered me so much more than complaining or being dissatisfied ever did, right? It's just, what you appreciate appreciates. And I am grateful every single day. Several times a day, I pause and just be grateful for everything that I have. And I truly, truly will be grateful when we all practice gratitude, right? It's such a powerful practice. And, Neil's words and God's words are absolutely correct. Like, start with gratitude and then watch the miracles occur.
This can be a difficult conversation for a lot of people, because when they'll start to get into specifics, well, I can't be grateful that there are people starving to death, and I can't be grateful that there's this going on or that going on. And it's really, I think the study of gratitude and the understanding of gratitude and what it means when God says, and I mean grateful for everything, which is everything, all the things that appear discordant in our world, we also have to hold gratitude for. And that's, I think, the big challenge for a lot of people. It becomes very difficult. You can be grateful to be alive. You can be grateful to have, things that are personal, but to be able to take that gratitude and move it outward into the other circles in the world where there are hellacious things going on, and to find a way to hold gratitude for those things is the real challenge, I think, that faces us.
Well, I have a young man in Iraq who, has been in contact with me. He did some translations for Humanities Team several years ago, but he's been in constant contact with me for probably about 3 years now. And even with all that's going on in Iraq, he still finds it within his heart to be happy.
I always find great joy in bragging.
You are so funny.
No, I'm not kidding, really. I didn't mean to be funny. But
It is funny, though.
Oh, I'm glad. But I have to tell you what I was bragging about. This is no ordinary group.
This is true.
Yeah, no, but I like, now I'm actually serious. We vibrate, particularly because Linda reads so powerfully, Mm-hmm. And as usual, Sarah's sparkling. You haven't got the light today, but when you were talking about your nephew, the joy, the light in you was huge. Anyway, I do have a point to make. So the local billionaire, Roy's son, was visiting his dad. And it's like sticking him in the microwave, So I said, come here, Gary. And I'm bragging about Kirsten in Vermont and Linda in Alaska. And, I couldn't get around to telling him all about your business and how well it does, but I tried, And Angela and you, Nanette, Angela in England, and Nanette, you're in Colorado and all this. And he was, he thought I was bragging, but all I was doing was getting him to stand here and stare at it so you could vibrate him like the microwave, So we did the job, thank you. Like, I'm really happy that he got a blast. I don't know how many we are, 7 of us, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 of us. Don't count very well, but I do know how to vibrate people, I was very proud of the byproduct of our book club. Did you see him? Did anyone see him? He was standing right here.
No, I didn't see him.
Well, you'll see him in the recording. I mean, it was just his torso. But I wasn't bragging about the club. I was just bragging about the vibration.
And that word, transmogrify, isn't that an amazing word? Yes. I love it.
I miss Alton.
Yeah, where's Alton?
Yeah. I just feel compelled to say this, that the real key behind gratitude, just as a reminder, is the knowing that everything that we see in the third dimension is a creation of divinity. And that's why even the war, the famine, all of the things that don't appear to be things we would want to be grateful for, that's why it's so important that we be able to get to that place of gratitude for everything, because that moves us in the place where we're connected to divinity all the time. I think that that was part of what Neil was struggling with in the beginning of this chapter, is that, and I could relate to it so well, because just the other day, I have this new employee, and we were sitting side by side in the office working, and absolutely nothing was going well. And by the end of the day, and I'm laying in bed that night, like, and I don't usually do this, but it was like, wow, what was it with this day? And it's just these appearances of discordance that get in our presence, and we get carried away with it. And so we had sat down to do some work. The internet wasn't working, and so it was like we couldn't work. And I should have just taken that as the sign of, well, okay, the internet's not working. Let's do something else. Let's not just try and resist the fact that the internet's not working. Let's work with the fact that the internet's not working, and let's go do something else that we could enjoy. Let's do a meditation. And I didn't do that. And then I was beating myself up for feeling like just almost exactly the way Neil was sounding in the beginning of this chapter. It was like, good Lord, I do all this work and then I blow it. And then I'm not the person that I know I'm capable of being. And that key that everything is divine, it's all divine. So what's pushing against us is divine, and there's a reason energetically for that. And that's our opportunity, is to learn in those moments when we're feeling that resistance, is to be able to stop and say, okay, this is perfect. So how do I get myself into the energetic space of accepting this as perfection?
Well, I'm very glad you shared that, Linda, because it's really annoying how highly evolved you are. So I like to crow over your mistakes because it makes me look better.
I'm really glad nobody likes to laugh in this group. You know what, though? That's a really important part of this, is to be able to have a sense of humor.
Definitely.
And, just not take everything so seriously. And while you were talking, Shabana, about how you liked Linda's faults to come out so you could feel better. And while you were talking, Linda, I was thinking when I was very young, so this has been a long time that I've been taught this thing about gratitude. And when my mother would hear any of us kids complain about anything, she would say, I once complained I had no shoes till I saw the man who had no feet.
Yeah.
And that has just been in my head for years and years and years. And so if you find yourself getting into one of those cyclones of, oh God, it's too cold, it's, the sun's too bright, whatever the situation is, you just need to turn around and say, make it into a positive, make it into a thing for which you're grateful. And I really think that one of the strong points about this group, and you were talking about the vibrational level, Shabana, is that we've all been meeting for quite a while now, and we know each other. It's we feel like we can dare to be ourselves in front of each other. And
Yeah, it's very nice.
it really is. It's like, you know, if I make a mistake in reading or repeating something, I'm not going to beat myself up with that, especially in front of you guys, unless it's to make Shavana feel better about herself.
Yeah, right.
But we have this team going here, and so it's really very powerful that we can come together and just say what we say. Like when you said, Linda, I was laying in bed and kind of beating myself up, and you know, not going with the flow, the way of Taoism. But you know what? We're not perfect. I mean, we're imperfectly perfect. Over.
Well, when I'm washing dishes, I'll be thanking God that I don't have a beautiful window to look out of.
It's okay, God. I don't need the window.
That was you.
Don't feel bad for me. Oh, too funny. And welcome, Andreas.
Hello, good evening. Sorry,
Hi.
I got the time wrong, and there was a computer problem. Anyway.
No
Don't
worries.
do that again, Andres, because I was showing off about you. And I said, and we have somebody from Beijing, and he's not here, so you were late. Otherwise, I could have bragged a little more.
No, I'm only going back on the 20s.
Okay.
Sorry, I missed it.
Well,
okay, I'm just listening now.
Yeah, you can listen to the recording and you'll see that we've been doing a lot of laughing today. Shall we move on, or does anybody else have anything they want to add? Because the next chapter is pretty short, and I think we can get it in.
Oh, okay, great. 31.
Correct. Okay, Linda, take it away.
All right. I love this. I love this. Now we're talking. Now I've got some equipment with which to finish climbing that mountain. This is great. And you know what? I actually came up with my own version of that last tool myself. Really? All by yourself? Well, it seemed like it was all by myself. Yes, well, it's supposed to. Go ahead. Are you saying? No. Go ahead. Tell me what you came up with all by yourself. I guess I understood intuitively that there was one way that I could bring to my everyday life the experience of what I already know to be true. So I came up with, a few years ago, what I've come to call the magic inquiry. I use it to make an instant assessment of whether what I just did, am now doing, or am about to do, well, here's that word again, congruent with my deepest desire. Before I sit down to watch a movie or walk into a social situation or prepare a meal or have a conversation with a beloved other, or do anything at all that I have judged to be of here and now importance, I quietly ask myself, and what does this have to do with the agenda of my soul? That's a great question. That can open anyone to a powerful inner exploration. Well, for me, the answer has almost always come clear immediately, because I know that the agenda of the soul is to express and experience divinity in me, through me, and as me. This instantly sets a context within which I can then create and experience the event at hand, or choose to eliminate it altogether from my doing this activity. The reason I've taken to calling this the magic inquiry is that it almost is like magic, snapping my attention to exactly what's going on in the present moment, like no other device I've found or been given. I'm going to let that sit there. I'm just going to let that sit there. A good idea. Another good idea that's just come to you. You're being cute again. You're doing it again. I like that. I like that about you. So let me just ask you what good idea I might just be given about this. How can I decide ahead of time what I'm going to be doing before I think something? I mean, your fourth suggestion here, to choose a state of being ahead of time, including how you're going to be when you're thinking of something, isn't that asking a bit much? I can decide what I'm going to be before I'm going to say something. I get that. And I can decide what I'm going to be before I do something. I get that too. But I don't know what I'm going to think until I think it. Am I making sense here? You are, if you imagine that your thoughts are most of the time original. But the fact is, the vast majority of your thoughts are thoughts you've had before. This is because most of the events in your life are events that have happened before in terms of type. More often than not, when an event of a certain type occurs, you immediately think what you thought previously about such an event. Very few of your thoughts are original. Very few of your experiences are original. Your life is on repeat most of the time. Since you know this to be true, you can decide ahead of time what you're going to think the next time an event of any real consequence and any degree of predictability takes place. The master is one who knows and chooses the way she is going to be in her thinking. Is he going to be calm? Is she going to be understanding? Is he going to be loving and accepting? Is she going to be accommodating and peaceful the next time such an event occurs in his life? I got it. And I think that at some level I always understood that. This may be why I came up with the second tool on my own. That's a good one. Am I ever on my own? No. Well, here's a second tool that came through me then. I call this tool the 4 fundamental questions of life. Who am I? Where am I? Why am I here? What do I intend to do about it? I find that when I ask these questions of myself and answer them anew in each moment they are asked, I move almost immediately to a place of being. I hate to use this word because it's so overused and almost trite. I'm going to say it anyway. A place of being centered. I feel centered within myself and not nearly so intermingled with the mini dramas and micro dilemmas of life. You are in this world, but not of it. Exactly. Those are 2 very good tools. They can really help you look at how you are using your time and what you are being while using it. And now I have even more tools. All of us here can be on our way if we use even 1 or 2 of these ideas. You can indeed. And of course, you're already on your way, but I understand your use of the phrase. I want to remind you that you are already awake. You merely need to begin acting like it. These tools can help. Well, this whole dialogue can help. The things we've been reminded of in the conversation with you can be immensely helpful. There can be enormous power in knowing and embracing some of the ideas found in this wonderful dialogue. Ideas like you're not your body, survival is not your basic instinct, the expression of divinity is. See the other as yourself. Life is eternal. And because you cannot lose your life ever, you have nothing to lose by being compassionate, caring, and comforting in every circumstance. And on and on. I'm going to conclude that if I simply used the tools I have been given in this life, if I found it possible to act more and more of the times as if I was already awake, I could feel free even while I'm in this body. You told me earlier you would explore that with me. Am I reaching the right conclusion here? you are. Freedom is not getting what you want. It is wanting what you get. I've heard that before. You've heard almost everything here before. You will feel joyous and free when you simply apply it in your life, what you already know. And to offer one more repetition, the fastest way to apply it in your life is to assist someone else in applying it in theirs. I see the circle. I see the whole circumferential process. And I feel heard and helped here. Thank you. I feel heard and helped. And I think that's all any of us needs to feel to be willing to move on. So having said that, there's one last thing, and this is something I absolutely have to ask you about because, sorry, I have to say this, it's something that's really bothering me after the exchanges we've had here. What's that? What about heaven? What about heaven? What about coming home to you? This dialogue seems to have reduced dying to nothing more than a process of moving from one state of being physical to another state of being metaphysical. That may be useful and even fascinating at one level. But what happened to coming home to God?
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Linda. That was beautiful.
That last paragraph is really powerful. Or paragraph and that one sentence. Deep thoughts for next time. Does anybody have anything they want to say before we wrap up?
I think he's got God stumped.
He's got what?
God stumped.
Yep.
I'm taking a class, or I've been taking a class of his, and he went into this idea in more depth, and I found it to be really fascinating. The idea that once we are adults, nothing new ever happens in our life. And in the class, there was a fair amount of resistance to that idea. But when you really start to dissect it, he's right. Because once you've had one child, then every other kid you've had, you're going to come at the idea, that thought of having a child, you're going to have all of those memories about that you already had a child. So it colors it and influences it and makes it not new. Even though it's a new child, it's not a new experience. Even if you're in a different hospital, it doesn't matter. You've been in a different hospital. So you have you get what I'm saying. You get the idea that he's talking about, that everything pretty much, once you've done it once, it's no longer new to you. And it not just that, but that we bring that history with us, and it colors our reaction to whatever it is. And so being aware of that and getting to a place where you can acknowledge that, okay, I want to be in this moment right now. And yeah, I have these other experiences, but to be here and present now so that I can experience this anew. It's really it's a very interesting thing for me to think about.
That is interesting, because I also think the flip side to that is try to look at things as if they are new, and which ties right back into the gratitude conversation. So yes, maybe I walked around a couple blocks around my house 100 times. But if I start each day with that walk with fresh eyes, and I always say, let me see things that I may not see ordinarily. Let me be aware. And without fail, I always see something that I hadn't noticed before. So in that way, I think we can live as though, because I may have seen geese before, but I may not have seen them in the formation that I saw them on in that walk that I took, whatever. So I think that can be blended and be a really great place to have a conversation and have you talk a little bit more about that, Linda, for next time. Anybody else?
Yes, please, Annette. Because I thought many years ago, I've come to the conclusion that I have nothing to fear. There's nothing, I've lived what I've lived, and just like you say, there's no real experience that's going to shock me or frighten me. So I have no fear. But then it got me to thinking, well, one thing that I haven't experienced is if someone's going to walk into my room now and point a gun at me. So in that instance, I think I would be fearful if that was to happen. So it just got me to thinking, I don't know, that is an experience that I haven't experienced. So I suppose something has happened in my life that would allow me to deal with that. I don't know. But this is a thought that I've had for a long time.
And I'm not trying to be funny, but I think I'm really careful about saying those kinds of things. Because
you fear you attract.
Yeah. Well, I feel like if I say, "Oh, what could possibly go wrong now?" Like, hey, don't say that. Don't say that, because I surely will find out.
Yes.
And so I think, and that's for Nanette. That's not necessarily for everybody else. But I'm just real careful about what I say. So I'm going to be saying some prayers for you.
No, but I was just trying to think of something. I've got no fear in this earth, and then I thought, well, possibly. I was trying to think of a situation where I would be fearful. So that's really the only sort of situation I can think of where I would be fearful in that instance. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I used to think.
Rightly so.
I used to think, what would be worse, being deaf or being blind? But of course, then I lost my hearing in one ear. So I need to stop thinking.
Yeah, precisely my point.
I think far too much.
Oh, I think we all do. Thank you for sharing.
I think the response, I think what God would say in these conversations, the response to a guy walking in your room with a gun, if we're going to be the people that God's writing about in these books, the response would be one of, I'm grateful for this new experience.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing to fear. Everything is a function of divinity, and things show up for a reason. And so, I hope that if that ever happens, I hope that I can hold myself together enough to respond that way, with curiosity and gratitude, and and not resistance and fear. It sounds pretty grand, but
good point,
we'll
Linda.
try.
And one thing I want to add to that real quick is physically, our bodies are going to react to things.
Absolutely.
And so, you may go into shock, and you may just kind of be on autopilot. You may go into hysterics. You don't know. And until these situations occur, we're kind of just saying, I hope I act this way, but the physicality or physical situation definitely plays a part. And if it's a sudden thing, you don't always have time to say, am I thinking about this in the right way right now? Because you're not going to try to explore it while
I
somebody's got
love
to
that you brought this up. I love that you brought this up because I'm actually teaching a class this spring in this whole concept of understanding the difference between the body, the vessel, the reactions of the vessel versus the reaction of the spirit or the soul. And that because we're so unconscious to our bodies, exactly, our bodies are going to kick in and they're going to want to do something. But we can become so conscious and present that our response becomes the primary response and the body becomes the secondary response. But that can't happen if you don't even know that it's happening. If you don't know what your body's doing and the fact that you're wired. This is a beautiful conversation because I just love it because we're wired to react to things. And yet, to be present, we have to overcome that wiring. And that's part of becoming awake, is connecting to our body and in a way that we've never been taught to do. And I think that I'm one of the few people that are going to be teaching how to do that.
Well, let's talk about that at the beginning of the next call, because I think we do this a lot. We come up with these great things at the end. But let's talk about that because I think there are several things that can be discussed in there's probably some positivity towards the wiring of the body, where it's the fight or flight or whatever it is to protect your children, whatever. But I think this is very interesting conversation, and it's sad that this bat hour is over. So, all right, everybody. Love you all.
I probably won't make it next week. I'm going to be in Spain, I think.
Well,
that's exciting.
Yeah, just for a long weekend. But if I can make it, I will.
Okay, then we'll make sure you get the recording. So,
right.
Okay, ta-ta.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
everyone.
Love
Bye.
you.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.